Now y'all can hear me. Hello, good evening everyone, good afternoon, good morning, depending on which part of the world you are, because this is viewed worldwide. Welcome aboard to another episode of the American Rail Club ARC Stream. I'm your host and founder of this wild ride and conductor, Demetrius Villa. Yep, I got a haircut, so it's been a bit and I've needed it, so yeah, been needing the haircut. So I hope you all can hear me. Hello. Let's see. Yeah, mic is working now. Okay. Can you hear me? I think you all can hear me now. Okay. All right, and we are joined on by Highcast on our stream. So you all can hear him. Facebook will probably be a 3-hour stream tonight. No, it's gonna be a shorter stream. Hold on, let me fix up something over here because it seems like we can't see the chat on the live stream. Let me go ahead and fix that up real quick. But hello everyone and welcome aboard. So yes, this will be a shorter stream. We're going to be talking about Amtrak's new venture contract that they have with Siemens. So we covered this a little bit ago. About a month and a half ago. That Siemens was going ahead and doing the new train sets for Amtrak, which is very similar. It's the same train sets that Brightline has already used and has been using, so Amtrak is just jumping on board with that, since Siemens is right now the premier high-speed and train and locomotive, the passenger locomotive manufacturer here in this country. And of course, Siemens is based out of Germany, and they have a factory over out of Sacramento in California. So it's just all good stuff because it's more American jobs, more American trains being made. So let's go ahead and fix this YouTube chat over here. There we go. All right. Now we should be on board. There we go. Now we can see that. Okay. So yeah, and as always, you guys can join us on the Discord channel on Transport Central and join in for the chat so we can go in. Thank you, Gramble. Yes, it is a nice hat. What year is California High-Speed Rail? I think we've already been over this. It will be here in the year 3046. I don't know. At this point, hopefully within the end of the decade, they're saying they can get the Central Valley section by 2027. I don't know. Looks like Amtrak copied the Shinkansen train sets and tried to change it up. Well, it's not Amtrak doing the design. But we will talk about a funnily designed train later on. Let's see. Hello, Hyokem. Awake at 2 a.m. in the morning. Well, I guess that's a good thing, if people are coming up to watch me at 2 a.m. in the morning. Nice music choice. Thank you. Yes, we put on the 4th of July music again just for one last week because people like it, and YouTube will demonetize me again, and I have to go ahead and fight it after I go ahead and cut off that section. So let's get into this. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird, but let me see. Let me put this on because the hat doesn't do too well with headphones. Either that, I'll probably have to just get a different set of headphones for that. So let's go into this. Amtrak, and this is in different places in the country. There's an article here that's out of Seattle from the Urbanist. We have one out of the Philly Voice for the Northeast Corridor. So everybody, it seems, all over the place is excited for these new Amtrak trains that are coming on board. So for you guys that are not familiar, basically what they're replacing are the train sets, which are the coach cars. These are the venture coaches over here. So we talked about this before. Some of you guys have mentioned it and wanted to know more information. Well, this is now the time to talk about it right here on this stream. So again, this is a picture of the coach on Brightline. Now, Amtrak's are probably not going to look exactly like this because Brightline went ahead and got this custom ordered into how they wanted it to look like. So it looks very much like a European train. Now, Amtrak could do something very similar, which is probably what they're going to do, but Brightline asked for some different things like the mood lighting and a whole lot of other stuff on there that they wanted to go ahead and just have for them. So Amtrak could probably copy that. which I don't know. Amtrak has been trying to do a little bit what Brightline has been trying to do. And yeah, the other thing is hybrid battery power. These are the Siemens locomotives that have been in use for a while. So this is all stuff that we've known about over here. So they were replacing the Talgo train sets over in the region over here, which is the Vancouver to Eugene, Oregon over here. I don't know if you guys can see that over here on the... There we go. Yeah, and we got some other articles so you guys can be able to see, because we got a whole lot here to go over, but not as much as some other streams. But anyway, so yeah, these train sets are capable of going 125 miles an hour. I don't know why this article says 120. That's actually incorrect. They can go 125, probably faster. But regulations make it so that they're limited to 125. Not only that, the maximum speeds on the Cascades corridor is 79 miles per hour, and that is set by the FRA, mainly due to the infrastructure there, which is older infrastructure. So, look, could they go faster? Yeah, but the FRA is not going to be dealing with, especially after that fatal accident that happened in the last several years up in the Cascades region. Yeah, the Cascade Service. Yes, Joachim. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can't hear me still. I know there's some people that are having an issue, maybe because the stream is a little bit back for you, but yeah, we did fix it. All right. Yeah, so I think we're good on that. So let's see. So here we are. Amtrak signs deal for 83 multi-powered trains. Some will replace rail cars that are 50 years old. So for those of you who don't know what the 50-year-old trains are, here's some pictures of the Am fleets. These were made by Buds, which is one of the oldest train manufacturers here in the United States. But yeah, these are some pretty old trains. They've been in use since 1978, 79. They're old. They're ugly. They haven't aged well. So yeah, they've been needing to go for a long time. But it's what they are. So, I guess they're vintage in a sense, if you guys want to call it that. But yeah, they've been involved in a whole lot of accidents, not because of the train sets or the fleet itself, but it's just memory wise, that's what a lot of people think of it outside of the train sphere when they think about Amtrak. But there's things that can change now with the newer fleets, and of course the safety regulations on them and everything else. It's a lot tighter fitting. It's a lot better. It's newer, made out of California by Siemens, and already being used in already some places here. Like for example, the Venture train sets here. So this is the Siemens website. So this is right from the horse's mouth. Crash energy management crumple zones at both ends. So yeah, like I said, safer. So Siemens Mobility has redefined intercity travel in North America with the Venture train sets, and these are based off of the European train sets they have. They just call them a different name and just bring them over here, and basically off the same blueprints and plans, modify it a little bit to conform with FRA regulations, or the FRA has fixed the regulations to deal with that. Yeah, and fleets are so old that they are retro. They're calling PlayStation 1 retro, right? So at this point, if you're calling a 90s console retro, I think a 50-year-old coach car is pretty retro. They have character. About as much character as like an old trash can or something. I know, I'm being kind of mean. Can rail cars handle sharp curves on specific routes? Some of them... not these technically. They're not meant to curve or tilt or anything like the Talgos or the Shinkansens or anything like that. No. Yeah, they can definitely go 125 miles an hour. The old Am fleets were more than capable of doing that. It's just more to do with the infrastructure there that's just old. Now it's coming out on the news about the Baltimore tunnel, which is about close to 150 years old. Now they're trying to figure out ways to fix that with some funding, because it's needed to be fixed. So you guys can have seen this, the Brightline trains more than several times. I do think that Siemens has to update their website. They're still calling it Virgin Trains USA, formerly Brightline, formerly Virgin Trains USA, currently Brightline. That's gonna be fun to fix that up. But they'll just have to take that out. Anyway, but that's pretty good here. So again, we're moving forward. We're starting to get things to look a little better because we need it here in this country. Amtrak needs it. The Northeast Corridor needs it. The Cascade regions. The Midwest has already been using some of these already. So again, the Siemens chargers are the cars. So some of you guys have already said that, like, I don't know, Amtrak is already replacing the Sprinters or the Chargers. No, the articles are just putting out this picture. And granted, yeah, I put out this picture as a thumbnail. Just it catches the eye and it looks better than putting, this. I mean, that doesn't really make a great thumbnail. This is a lot cooler. But hey, that's where we are. So we got you all here. We're all excited. So, yeah, this is good. Yeah, we got a haircut. Okay. So, moving right along. Speaking of Brightline did buy land for a terminal, 110 acres on Las Vegas Boulevard. Las Vegas Boulevard South to be the home of the Southern Nevada Terminal Station for the planned high-speed rail to Southern California. Now, there's a video here, but it's not coming up. But, oh well, no big deal. But, of course, you guys have seen the pictures of Brightline West, or at least the renderings of it, which is most likely going to be a Siemens Valero. It's going to go over 200. Now, I know some of you guys have said that, it's not, or I haven't looked into the grading issue because some of you guys have put it up and said that the grading issue doesn't. The grading on Brightline that they planned out is a little bit too steep for high-speed rail, so that may be fair, but we'll see. Yeah, but we'll check that out later on in a full video about Brightline West. They did not disclose the purchase price, but Clark County records indicate that the land sold for $140 million and that the transaction closed Thursday. So most likely, yeah, Brightline did pay $140 million. I'm sorry. I don't know if we could pay $140 for a station. I think we'd be doing pretty well. But $140 million, and the transaction closed on Thursday. So that's pretty good. So plans call for a 65,000 square foot terminal with ample parking and connections to ground transportation options. That needs to be more of our priority, is ground transportation options, because people are not going to be having cars if they're going to be using the train. To use for the long talked about Las Vegas to Southern California high-speed rail project. Clark County Commissioner Michael Naft called the announcement a significant step forward on our path to securing high-speed rail to Southern California. It is a demonstration of Brightline's commitment to the project and investment in our community, Naft said, and it could not come soon enough, as was evident over the July 4th weekend. The road to California is simply insufficient to meet the needs of our booming travel economy. So, of course, last weekend was the 4th of July, and a lot of Californians wanted to escape their containment center of the the prison state of California, wanted to have fun in Nevada, in Las Vegas, where there's less strict laws. So, especially when it comes to fireworks. Because I still think that California, or at least Los Angeles, still has a stop on fireworks, because you may catch the coof if you shoot off fireworks. But yeah, a lot of people went to Las Vegas and they clogged up the roads. So could something like Brightline be able to alleviate that? Absolutely. Yeah. Texas Police Amtrak. I don't know what you mean by that, John. Let's see what else in the comments here. Brightline West Station will be built across the strip from the outlet mall. All right, well, that's if they could have maybe something similar to what they're doing with the Aventura Station, have a catwalk or skywalk, whatever you want to call it, across from there. That would at least have some sort of transit-oriented development. Of course, we don't. It gets tiring when I say transit-oriented development, and it's all just, let's make more malls, as if America isn't a giant shopping mall at this point. Don't worry about the steep. Look at the Cologne-Frankfurt high-speed railway. Yeah, and if you look at that, I mean, that's a pretty steep climb from there. It doesn't look that steep, but when you actually look at it, it's like, wow. I mean, yeah, it could be able to do that, but I don't think it will be that steep, especially in this part of the country. Yeah, it's got some rolling hills, but it's not going up mountains or anything like that. Yeah, and hopefully construction will start on the terminal some point, probably next year. That's when Brightline said that if they can get this building out 2022, 2023, they should have this all set and ready to go by 2025. So that's where we're at right now. Let's see who's in the audience right now. Oh, Joachim is in the audience, so we'll go ahead and bring him on board. So like I said, we're going to make this a nice quick stream, so we have some things to talk about. Okay, so yeah, Joachim, if you want to come on board, you're more than welcome to raise your hand. If not, yeah, by all means, if you want to just listen in, that's all fine. Is TCR starting construction? They have not. They have not. Yeah. So once they clear the STB, they should be able to get that done. And they're a lot closer now than they were before, since they got rid of that whole mess. As Highcast went ahead and put out the last. No, it was like about 2 streams ago when we talked about that. The whole court case got thrown out by the NIMBY court case. Why can't... No, I think it was the one against TCR about the... No. Yeah. Yeah, because I know both cases, or at least both cases now at this point are done for. Let's see. What do the new Viewliners, sleeping cars, and superliners look like? Adam, we did a video on that. I believe one of the last 2 streams was about that. So if you look up on our videos, we should have that there. So we looked at a lot of the pictures. Yeah, California High-Speed Rail is still in construction now. Yeah, they're still in construction. All right, so yeah, so we can look at some of these, some of the older Amtrak trains. Like I said, like there's been some real older trains that I have not been a fan of. Probably the worst one is the AEM 7. Luckily, they got rid of that a couple years ago. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's this thing over here, which looks like it looks like it's in the wrong country, and in the wrong century. And it just doesn't look good, period. I mean, look at this thing. It just looks sad. It's like if you look at trains, if they got like eyes, this one looks like that, and there's its mouth is just like... That's its look. That's what it looks like. That's what I always looked at it when I was a kid. But, yeah. I mean, shoot. Some of the oldest videos that we have on there, we were on the older GEs. The Genesis P40s and on that. So of course, yeah, this is Amtrak's fleet, which are now these will be going out pretty soon by 2030. That's what Amtrak is saying. So say goodbye to the P40s and the P42s. They will be out the door soon. It's not that GE makes trains anymore, so I mean that's sort of the reason why. So the Genesis will be going, and we'll soon be seeing the Sprinters and the Chargers to be taking over for that. Yeah, Grandpa, it does. The AEM 7s do look pretty primitive. Yeah, like a toaster. I saw that they want the South Carolina to reconsider, but a judge... Oh, the Supreme Court to reconsider. Okay. But a judge resigned days prior to the decision, but not sure whether that makes any legal sense. It will just probably be taken to another court. That's most likely what will happen. 2 of the old Amtrak electric locos has been purchased by Caltrains. They will be using them to test up their electrification. Yeah, I mean they still have some use. I mean, hey, some of these trains are so old they're in museums. So yeah, like there's even an old AEM 7 that's in a museum. I mean, yeah, we did have some cooler when Amtrak started out in the 70s. They were experimenting with a whole bunch of different cars. I mean, Bud made the Metroliner, which was basically sort of our version of high-speed rail before high-speed rail. And that went pretty quick. Of course, there was a Turbo Train, and that's definitely that's definitely in a class of its own. It didn't do too well because of the maintenance problems that it had. It was always having some sort of issues, but it did go fast. I mean, I think it did set a record. I think in New Jersey or something like that, on the Northeast Corridor, around 150 miles an hour. Hi, Cass, you know what I'm talking about, or not the Metro liner? I think the Turbo train was the one that made the record. All right. Not to worry. All right. So, yeah, I think we're good with that, unless anybody else wants to look at any other pictures of that. But yeah, that's basically it on the new Amtrak trains on there. That's what we got here. All right, and of course on Brightline. All right. So let's talk about some funny stuff. So we're gonna get off the rails here for a good bit. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. So if you look up we're going to be talking about some fun stuff. So if you look in the description, we're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on airlines, because people are going nuts on airlines. Now, it's not enough that you're cramped in a giant flying can for hours on end without much to go or much to do or much to eat. But man, what is going on in the airlines? So this has been happening all over the country more and more. Either fights have been happening on airlines, or people just refuse to follow the rules, etc., etc. So yeah, there's just one from Bahamas in Miami. Miami flight. No, this is a North Carolina flight. There were several others from. There was one in Miami. There was one that was local here in Indianapolis. Which they got 2 passengers aboard Indy flight fined combined $28,000 for unruly passengers. And this seems to be sort of a pattern around here. The flight had to be canceled after a group of teens refused to wear masks. Other passengers said the group who were on the graduation trip were being terrible kids. The flight, which was headed to the Bahamas, didn't take off until the following morning. So yeah, think about that. Now, of course, you can't take a train from North Carolina to the Bahamas, but this is happening on all flights across the United States, and this is this is just a big issue everywhere. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, have you gotten on any flights, Highcast, recently, or no? Oh, lucky you, yeah. We just been on flights because either Holly has some sort of function or something that we have to go to, or I'm traveling also for business, and yeah, I mean, here's the thing about that. Again, like I've said, I've reiterated this over and over again. Every public transportation system, or every system that I go on, or any train system anywhere in the country, they always have the seats blocked off. On the flights, they always have everybody just crammed in. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But they're not following the rules, and the airlines aren't following the rules, and it seems like passengers aren't following the rules about masks. It's now is a federal law by the Biden administration that you have to go ahead and wear a mask on any public transportation or any flights or anything like that. American Airlines has also been canceling a whole bunch of flights. Every airline has been doing that. So the friendly skies, it has not been, but that's a whole United tagline. So let me see. The incident is one of the latest involving passengers refusing to comply with coronavirus safety measures. Since January 2021, the Federal Aviation Administration has received 2,500 reports of unruly behavior by passengers, most of which involve travelers refusing to comply with the federal mask mandate. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody just doesn't want to wear masks on the airlines. I've seen almost some flights break out. When I was coming from the last trip that I had from Miami back to Indianapolis, there almost was a flight breaking out, and I was telling Holly, I'm like, get ready to find a place to stay in Miami if this keeps going on, because they're gonna have to take the flight back. Hopefully not. But luckily, they were able to calm down a bit. But usually what happens is, some of these passengers will get unruly, and when they start screaming, then they'll take off the mask, then they'll get ticked off to a point where they don't want to put on the mask. That's just human behavior. When you get ticked off to a point, you're just, with somebody else, you're not going to comply with anybody else, even for the silliest of things. But this has been happening everywhere. Okay, so this arrest happened when Flight 2289 landed in Miami. Passengers were ordered to put their hands on their heads for 45 to 60 minutes before landing. Strangely, passengers were repeatedly told not to film on the plane, but apparently somebody was. So this was weird. So, and of course, all these stories that we're seeing and all the footage that we're getting is because people, instead of, and this is a whole moral thing in America, right? And it just shows how our morals have been. It's not just our infrastructure falling apart; it's our morals, right? Because instead of people telling somebody to, hey, knock it off, lay off, him or her, stop arguing. There's children here. There's other people on here. You're not on this flight alone. Instead of doing that, they're doing this. World star. Like it's ridiculous, And this is the problem. Now this is how people are going to be treated on flights. They're going to be told to put your hands on your head, like if you're, This is bizarre. This is just bizarre right now. And again, it just keeps happening. Federal fines for unruly passengers. A Republic flight from Indianapolis to Philadelphia. 2 women, both refused to wear masks. 1 punched a passenger. 1 insulted flight attendants. So again, the mask thing is just a little tidbit of it. I don't know why the media is pushing so much on the mask thing when it's really more to do with just them being unruly. I don't think any of these people started a fight because one or the other wasn't wearing a mask. Now, there have been some reports of that happening, not as much as on flights. So this is insane. And again, let's see, 3,200. Okay, so no, this is even more. 3,271 reports of unruly behavior by passengers. So in all, the FAA has proposed fines of $682,000 against unruly air passengers. So this is insane. So I mean, why does anybody want to fly at this point in this country? I mean, the flights are either delayed or canceled, as in the case of a lot of flights, like American Airlines flights. Look at this, hundreds of flights canceled. So your flight's either delayed, it's canceled, or you finally get on the flight after all of that, after you get on and everything, you're set and ready to go, you're sitting down, you're all set, and all of a sudden, there's a fight going on. Okay? At this point, you're okay with the baby crying. If that's the worst thing, then bring on the crying babies. But when the fights start, that flight's going down. So yeah, that's what it is. All right, so we're gonna take a break here and bring on somebody from the audience. El Rapido is on, so we'll go ahead and bring him on board. Hey there. All right, hold on a second. Yeah, I'm checking my mixer now. Okay, I got you guys. Hold on. So yeah, we've been having an issue that we're not hearing Highcast. Let me just go ahead and fix that. There we go. All right, now we got that fixed. I was just checking my audio mixer here. Yeah, it changed from, because I put my headphones in and it changed the audio input instead of my speakers on my laptop. It changed it out to something else. So yeah, that's the problem. All right. Now we should be able to hear this.
Can you hear me? We're gonna have to wait like a good 20 seconds for the audience to react, but
okay. Let's see. Darius is on. Flying is still better for long ranges, cross country travel. Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, over. Yeah, go ahead, Highcast.
If it takes longer to get on to ride on a train than it does to go to fly on a flight and board and disembark, then at that point flying's a better option. But if you can get there faster by train, like on the short haul flight routes, then that's a good place for trains.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's all about a balance, right? And having the options and having things that just logically make sense. This is why between 200 and about 700 miles, this is why high-speed rail captures a much higher market share of travelers between those areas. We've seen this in Europe. We've seen this in China. We've seen this in Japan. We've seen this basically all over the world where they have this type of transportation technology available. So that's why it makes sense to have this over here in this country. All right, so you guys now can hear Highcast. Great. Okay, so we're all
Yay.
we're all in here. All right, so that works. So there we are. Now we can have something to drink to. There we go. Yeah, I need it this week. I've been feigning alcohol and training for a physical test that I had to take for a job that I can hopefully get. So. Let's see. So yeah, I did pretty well on it. So I could do better. I'm pretty good physically, but I can do better in some things. So let's see. Someone's got to go mow the lawn. Okay. All right, Pariksha, have fun with that. All right. Good luck, man. All right. And sleepers can save a motel room. Yeah, that's true. And that's the thing. Look, if you have things that make sense. That's look. Every other country's been doing this. Even in our country, we have sleepers, right? So it makes sense that if you want, instead of driving, if you can afford to go ahead and take a train, let's say a cross country trip, instead of driving from point A to point B, 1,000 miles away, you can go ahead and take a sleeper. And in that sense, it actually does make sense to go ahead and take a train. And even in Amtrak's own records. And in their in the information that they take down, they do see most of the people that take Amtrak trains, most of their market share is between the 200, 500 mile range, but they have like a small uptick of passengers that take, let's say, somewhere between like the Silver Star, Silver Meteor, or any of these long distance trains, like the Empire Builder, etc. They see a significant, sizable, like at least 10, 20% on some trains of passengers that just want to take the train for, a long, nice, scenic vacation, or to also serve as to go from point A to point B in style. So that still exists there to have that. And we'll talk about a little bit about cruise trains. All right. And if anybody in the audience does want to come on board and share their thoughts or share anything as well, please be sure to go ahead and raise your hand, and you're more than welcome to join on in. We'll just keep jumping back and forth here in the comments. So, hi, Kes. Since everybody wasn't able to hear you, what do you think so far about anything that we've gone through so far?
I'm just trying to think of what I said so that I can repeat myself, but can't really think of much. I think I said some stuff about the AM fleet, which I don't think was that important, but something about going to 125 miles per hour or something.
Right.
I don't remember. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I think you were saying that the AM fleets were also capable of doing that. It's just that the newer ventures are just going to be safer in case of any accidents or rollovers or derailments or anything like that. All right. Oh, it seems Joachim wants to come in, so let's go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let him in.
Bring him on board. Hello, Joachim. You are on board.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, great. Yes, I of course also heard the news that Amtrak would be acquiring these new trains, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier today, but about the retirement of the ACS 64 locomotives, which I just don't.
Oh no!
Really.
No. Okay. So yeah.
Really, I don't know where it came from. I've heard from some people that it's not true. Other people, it's true. So
no, it's not true. So the confusion is coming in that a lot of these media outlets are going ahead and showing off the picture of. Which are basically the same thing. These are the new Amtrak trains. They're just showing the Siemens Charger. The ACS 64 is also part of that.
Yes.
So they are Amtrak's electric locomotives that are running now in the Northeast Corridor, and I think they do have some over in California. Yeah, they do have some in California. What they're replacing are the AM fleets that they're towing along
Yes.
in the same train set. So they're not going to be using the AM fleets anymore. They're going to be changing those up to the Venture coaches. So the coaches are right now going from AM fleets to the new Ventures. Okay, and then the Siemens ACS 64 replaced a lot of the older Amtrak electric trains, like the AEM 7s and all that. So that's where the confusion's coming in.
Yes. And another thing that's actually just today what I learned was recently I was also a bit looking at the station locations of the Texas Central Railroad, and I just thought it was really interesting. To me, those locations seem rather inconvenient because in the Houston station, yes, that's correct. There's literally like zero public transit there, and the Dallas station is at least a kilometer walk from the nearest station for the ability to use public transit. And what I've seen in the plans is just that the stations have very large parking garages, which is of course understandable because these cities are really built for the car. But it really seems disappointed. It really disappoints me to see that the integration with existing transit is really bad, which just removes the for people to use the option of public transit in those cities.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought Dallas was supposed to connect to the LRT lines nearby.
Yeah, yes, I looked at it, and that's true, but it's like at least a kilometer or walk to the nearest station on a very long walkway, or a bit shorter, but it's a rather long walk, and to connect to the other services like Amtrak, you would like take a long walk, take one stop on the LRT, and then you can connect to the commuter rail and the Amtrak services in Dallas. And in Houston, there is like zero connections at all.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying there, Joachim. I do agree with you that, it would have been probably more convenient to have the station in the city center or in Dallas or Houston proper. The reason why they did this was for more of American sensibilities, as much as that's an oxymoron in itself, American sensibilities, to have it near a highway and to have it accessible to the automobile. And because most people, how they're going to go ahead and use this within Texas is they're going to drive to the station within the Dallas-Fort Worth area or the Houston area, which is basically how American cities work. It's not just the city and then the rural area.
Yes.
It goes city, and then you have these little tiers of what the urban areas are, then the suburbs, and then the suburbs basically go on forever. So this is still within the city limits and in the suburb limits, and what most people will do is just drive over to the stations, and then from the stations, they're going to go ahead and take the train and then probably go ahead and pick up. Unless, the Dallas station, I think they're going to have the DART connected to it. I think the light rail, like you were saying, Highcast. Yeah, but it's. I wish they would have it in the city, and maybe that will change the way Americans start to use trains. I mean, not change it. I mean, we used to do it before. It's just things. A lot of things have changed, not for the better. So I do agree with you there. They're not going to change it, but it's just what it is.
And it really disappoints me even more with in Dallas, it's still actually really close to the existing stations. So I think it disappoints me really that it's just that close, but not close enough. But
yeah, I know.
I guess we're stuck with it now. So
yeah, I think the other thing they were also contending with is space and alignment, because it's a lot harder and more expensive to be able to build that line outside of the city. And they're only working with a limited budget. They're a private company that they're going ahead and doing this. Now, if there is something like California, California basically has an unlimited budget. Don't tell them that, because then they'll spend $200 billion on the high-speed rail project. But they're doing it differently. Like the San Francisco station is going to be within San Francisco. And I'm not quite sure what they're doing with the Los Angeles station. I think they're putting it in Union Station, according to the plans. But, those stations in those areas were built at a much different time than what Texas Central is doing now. Now, hopefully, maybe this works out well. That maybe later on Texas can go ahead and build a better station within, or later on down the line, because I mean, look, the Japanese had that where you're not just going to Tokyo to there's several different Shinkansen stations within the Tokyo area. So I mean, and they're about sometimes between about 10 kilometers or several kilometers apart, which doesn't make that much of a difference, and depending on which service you're taking. That depends on which station you're going to. So that could happen later on in the future. I doubt it, but it definitely is a valid point, and I'm glad you brought it up. It does make sense.
Yeah. Also, on a note, I actually also looked at the California high-speed rail links, and if I'm correct, it's you're right that it's at the LA Union Station. The preferred alternative, which I have heard, is just to follow the existing Metrolink track that they will electrify for the first 5 kilometers or so, or even a bit more.
Right.
You just get outside the densest part of the city, and in Burbank, it will enter a tunnel and then go through the mountains.
Yeah.
And first under the airport for a station there.
Yep, that's definitely what's in the plan. So I mean, and that's going to come later on, hopefully when California gets the Central Valley done. Yes. But that's a ways down the line. We can only hope.
Even when they start building the tunnels itself, that's gonna take an absolute eternity, because building tunnels in mountains just takes a really long time.
Yeah.
So if they start construction on that section, it will take probably at least 10 years before it will be complete. And knowing how construction projects go in the United States, it will probably take even longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that in this country it takes so long to just build anything, and you look at China and they're just moving so far ahead. Which we'll talk a little bit about China, because some people wanted me to talk more about that.
It's really crazy how fast they go. But on the other side, there are multiple occasions that Chinese high-speed rail systems have failed, like bridges have collapsed, trains has derailed. But yeah, that's I guess just the cost of doing it in such a fast way.
Yeah, and like what happened I believe that accident was in 2011. What happened? And we talked about that at the end of the last stream. And what did they do to the former minister of the rail system over there? Is that they executed the guy. Because he was corrupt. And then you look at what's going on in Miami. What happened with the collapse there? I mean, and that's a complete mess. And there's a little more we're going to talk about that, because now there's more buildings which they're taking people out of that could collapse down in the South Florida area.
Yeah, but that's always like how it goes. Like something really has to go wrong before things will change.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the way things have changed in this country. It's we only hope and pray that things can get better. That's what it is, and that's why we're here. So people can be able to know, and we give people the information, and and hopefully when our generation comes into more power, we can change things for the better.
Yes.
All right, but I thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Enjoy, man.
Thanks for coming.
All right, so that was pretty good. Anybody else who wants to come on, you're more than welcome to come on board. But until then,
do not have any requests to speak.
All right, so let's talk about how we got here a little bit. Oh, and when I mean how we got here, why did our transportation system in this country turn to complete garbage? All right, and so when I talk about things that are conspiracies, all right, you look at the definition of a conspiracy. Yeah, and it's not. We're not talking about conspiracy theories or whatnot. We're talking about conspiracies, okay? Because you can be guilty of a conspiracy in terms in this country of conspiring to have a crime, which means that two or more groups or people come together to plan out something, or to plan out either a crime or plan out a monopoly or some things. And this has definitely happened in this country and all over the world in many ways. For example, let's start about here in Europe. Look at this. Volkswagen and BMW fined $1 billion for running an emissions cartel. So the European Commission has fined both Volkswagen and BMW. These are normally competitors, right? These are the two largest, or one of the two largest German automakers. Volkswagen being the largest, and I think Mercedes is the second largest, but BMW. Okay, so you had the first and I guess third or fourth largest. Third largest, because Audi is smaller than BMW. Audi is part of Volkswagen. What am I talking about? So Volkswagen and BMW fined $1 billion for colluding with Daimler. So the three biggest German companies, to hold back the development of technology that could have reduced harmful emissions from their vehicles. So this happens. So these are three companies that came together and colluded in order to do something that was morally morally corrupt, and in the business sense also corrupt. Okay, holding back the development of technology that could have reduced harmful emissions from their vehicles. So probably one of the main reasons they're doing this. And now, of course, some of these companies like Audi, which is owned by Volkswagen, is saying, "Oh, we're gonna stop all development of our internal combustion engines, and we're not gonna make any more internal combustion engines by 2035 or something like that." Right? All these car companies go ahead, and all companies in general, right? They go ahead and promise that we're gonna be green by such and such date. By 20XX or whatever it is, when Mega Man comes out, is probably when they're going to be all green or whatever, right? And it's not that, we want the car companies to be green or anything like that. I mean, of course, we love our engines and stuff like that. We love our loud, rip-roaring V8s, which are probably a dying breed at this point. And we love cars in general, okay? But we also want to balance that. Yeah, we want, sensible, affordable, and convenient transportation. But the automobile companies have been one of the main culprits, especially here in the United States, of holding back a lot of development and a lot of progress in the infrastructure space. Okay, the automobile companies and the airline companies here in the United States. Okay, and you also have the automobile companies in Europe. Okay, so a little bit more on this article. In a statement on Thursday, the Commission said that 3 German auto manufacturers, along with Volkswagen subsidiaries Audi and Porsche, breached EU antitrust rules by agreeing to avoid competing on technical development in the area of nitrogen oxide cleaning. Now, probably the reason why is that they wanted to save money. They didn't want to go ahead and do with these emissions standards or anything like that. Which, look, that makes sense. But it doesn't look like they were wanting to meet standards. They were just wanting to hold back to development, so there wouldn't be any standards afterwards. Okay, this has happened here in the United States, where the automobile companies in the 70s, they could not compete with the new regulations and laws that the United States put in to make their vehicles more efficient fuel-wise after the oil embargo. And once the Japanese cars started coming over here in the United States, not only were they cheaper, not only were they better built, not only were some of them even faster and were more fun to drive, but they were also more fuel efficient. So the automobile companies in the United States could not compete with that. So what did they do? They went to Congress. They went to Ronnie Reagan, who was the president in the 80s, and told him to put an embargo and a stop on Japanese auto manufacturers, or a tariff on them, so they could limit the amount of competition they had in the United States. So instead of, and this happened, okay, and this wasn't anything they were doing illegally in the United States. This was collusion with the government to make this happen in a legal way, and the government did it. Okay, and how did the Japanese car manufacturers respond? Well, you had Honda, which was the first Japanese car company. They opened a factory up in Ohio. So they started making Honda Accords in Ohio. And now Toyotas have been making cars here in the United States, like in places like Indiana and Ohio and other places. Your Japanese car is probably more American than your American car. Okay? How have things gotten to here? I don't know. So look at this. In today's world, polluting less is an important characteristic of any car, and this cartel aimed at restricting competition on this key competition parameter, she added. Okay, so this was Margrethe Vestager, who's the EU's top antitrust official. And I'm not a fan of the EU by any means whatsoever, but this is just more proof that, yes, there are conspiracies, guys. There are these type of things that do happen. It's not just, trains just disappeared or anything like that because, GM had nothing to do with it. No, this has happened. All right? So this was just recently. This was on Friday, July 9th. This was yesterday that this came out. That the EU went ahead and fined Volkswagen. Volkswagen, BMW, and Daimler. Okay? All of them. Let's see. So Volkswagen was fined 595 million or 502 million euros, poverty bucks, as we call them here. Although we probably shouldn't be saying anything because our money is going completely insane in inflation. BMW was fined 373 million euros or 442 million dollars. Daimler was not fined because it revealed the existence of the cartel. So they had a snitch. It all falls apart when there's a snitch. So there you go. Daimler Mercedes was the
Among Us music place.
Sus. I don't know if you got the soundboard for that high cast, but that would be hilarious. Oh man.
Daimler sus.
Daimler is sus. They ratted them out. Unbelievable.
Welcome to ARC. We make Dead Among Us memes
boop,
on the server.
Do 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 do. So Daimler was a mogus. Oh man, yeah. That's.
EU Commission be like, hello, is this the imposter from Among Us?
I'm gonna do that the next next time I just go to a Mercedes dealership just for the giggles. I can't say the other word because YouTube will probably go ahead and demonetize me. Although we've been doing pretty all right, so can't say. Darius is saying, look at Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Do you notice that anything the feds try to do outside these few and defined areas becomes crappy, and Amtrak is a great example of that. Again, that's a whole different scenario. Again, because of that, again, what Amtrak has done is because of the way that it was designed as a temporary backstop, and saying that, we'll just have rail transportation, and once demand dies down, Amtrak will die down, right? But rail demand did not die down. In fact, it stayed stagnant and then started to steadily rise, and of course, rise and fall, but mostly rise in this country. We've had more passengers in 2019 than ever in the United States, and Amtrak was going to break records in 2020 until, of course, a certain virus from a certain country, spread out, and everybody, started closing down their countries, which is again all sad. Speaking of things that didn't age well, when I said that Japan was going to have the Olympics in 2020, and we were all going to go ahead and have the public open viewing to see the maglev, that ain't happening at all. That ain't happening at all. But let's talk about another cartel thing again. Here we go. So this was just recently again. This was Sunday of last week. This week. We're still in this week, unless people sometimes call Monday the beginning of the week. But hey, an Exxon lobbyist thought he was in a job interview. Instead, it was a secretly recorded Zoom call. Okay, so maybe some of you have seen this. But Keith McCoy thought he was talking to a job recruiter. Speaking on a Zoom call in May, the longtime Washington lobbyist talked openly about efforts to blunt the Biden administration's climate agenda on behalf of the nation's largest oil and gas company, Exxon Mobil. So we've always had a big issue with large companies since, I would say, about the Gilded Age, or even before then. You've had the East India Dutch, trading company and other large monopolies that have taken control of large swaths of different industries. But here in the United States, historically, we've had the oil companies. ExxonMobil used to be part of Standard Oil. And you've had probably every oil company, except for maybe some of the Arab ones, were all part of Standard Oil at some point or another before it was all broken apart after the antitrust laws were put in. And this is sort of the issue in this country, is that instead of the government sort of reining in this monopolies, the monopolies through lobbyists have taken over and a lot of other large lobbies. It's not just the oil companies, but that's the story for a different time. But a whole bunch of lobbyists, mainly in the business world. The oil lobby is one of the largest ones, if not the largest, have taken control of a lot of politics. That's just the way it is. And they go ahead and they say it out loud. McCoy, the company's senior director of federal relations, described how ExxonMobil selects senators on which to apply pressure. The oil firm's public support for a tax on carbon emissions, he said, was quote, an easy talking point, with little chance of ever passing Congress. Quote, nobody's going to propose a tax on all Americans. And the cynical side of me says, yeah, we kind of know that. The excerpts, aired this week by the British broadcaster Channel 4, have led to a rare mea culpa from the chief executive of the normally unapologetic Exxon. Excuse me. So they got caught, right? They got caught. And all they're going to say is this: entirely inconsistent with our commitment to the environment, transparency, and what our employees and management team have worked toward since I became CEO years ago. So this is CEO Darren Woods of ExxonMobil. And of course, like I've said multiple times before, most of these companies, when they say they care about being green and whatnot, they don't care about the green environment. Mostly the green that they care about is this. They care about that green, which are basically, ones and zeros in their bank accounts. So you got to understand, guys. It's not just, and they're not applying pressure to one party or another. They do it to both parties. Okay, both parties have done this, and of course, you'll have here you go, one top Democrat lawmaker, representative. Why would it be Democrat Republican? We're not in the 1820s anymore. Democrat lawmaker, Representative Roy Khanna of California, is asking for Woods to testify in Congress broadly about the company's communication on climate change, while lawmakers named in the video are distancing themselves from the company. Okay, so they're just asking them to come on Congress. Probably not that much of an investigation will happen once a large check for somebody's somebody's re-election comes up, and then they'll all be thrown away, right? It's a confirmation of what many on the Hill and around the country have suspected. Suspected or known, right? Let's see in the comments. Suspected or known? Do you think they know about this, guys? Do you think they suspect this or know about this? Type in the comments below. We want to hear. Okay, and if anybody wants to come on in the audience right after this article, we're going to bring them on.
We got two.
Yeah, so we'll talk about this, and we got several other conspiracies to go into. Of course, probably some of the most famous ones, which you guys already know, which we have talked about multiple times, which the video is long overdue on this, is the GM streetcar conspiracy. Probably one of the main reasons I'm coming up with this was I went to a recent church meeting, and I was talking to a guy whose wife works on a committee to bring rail trails. We had an interesting conversation because, like, I told him outright, the guy's, of course, an older guy, a boomer. Again, you know what I've said about about that, and I've been outright with him. It's like, respectfully, I completely disagree with all that, and I agree that we need more bicycling in this country, but not in the way that we're doing it. Okay, you can't just paint. You can't paint the line, paint a little stick figure on a bike, and call it a bike lane. That's not how it works. So yeah, this is this is stuff that's happening. This is insane. Of what's going on. Of what's happened. Okay, this is for real. Okay. In the video, McCoy argued Biden's goal for cutting greenhouse gas emissions are, quote, insane. The president campaigned on making the country carbon neutral by the middle of the century, which is probably not going to happen. Again, Obama said the same thing. Trump said a whole lot of promises, promises made, promises never kept by any party. So, look, that's just the reality. So, quote, we're playing defense because President Biden's talking about this big infrastructure package, and he's going to pay for it by increasing corporate taxes. he said in the recording. This was McCoy, the real McCoy from ExxonMobil. He said in the recording. McCoy did not respond to requests for comment. Of course, he doesn't want to dig himself a bigger grave over here, which is funny because he's a lobbyist, and now thinking he's on a job interview. So it looks like he wants to get out or into something else. And again, this also goes to show you that there definitely has been a revolving door in Washington, right? That's what we always call the revolving door, where people go from a company, and then after said company, like let's say, they're a pharmaceutical company, right? They work for like a large company like Eli Lilly or Pfizer, etc., right? And then after that, they go ahead and work for a lobbying group on K Street in Washington that, lobbies for most of these same companies. Or sometimes they maybe become a senator or representative from that area, like where they are. And then, again, it keeps going around. Then they go back onto the company, etc. Yeah. This is the reality. Okay, so a lot of you saying that they already know. Yeah, they don't suspect. They already know. They know that this has happened. Yeah. Adam's asking, did GM make a bad decision with buying all the streetcars in the U.S.? No, they made a very good decision for themselves. They sold a heck of a lot of buses, and they weren't at all punished for it. That they bought off all the streetcar companies, destroyed them all, and sold buses, along with Firestone selling the tires, and along with oil companies selling, the oil contracts or the gas contracts for these buses, right? And they were found guilty. So let's look at this, right? Here we are. 5 corporations, including GM and the usual suspects, were convicted of conspiring to monopolize the sale of buses and related products to local transit companies controlled by NCL. NCL is National City Lines, okay? National City Lines, which is the company that GM and Firestone and all these other companies made to sell these buses, right? So they did monopolize, okay? However, they were acquitted of conspiring to monopolize the ownership of these companies, of the transit companies, right? So again, of course, they weren't trying to monopolize the companies. They were trying to monopolize the sale of buses. So they were trying to buy up all these streetcar companies, destroy them, and sell the buses. So the United States, okay, in the U.S. versus National City Lines, this is a real court case in 1949, did find them guilty. They were convicted. What did they get punished for? GM was fined $5,000. Okay, $5,000, which what buys a 1953 Bel Air or whatever. $5,000, not even. Actually probably buys 2. Okay, so they got charged 2 cars, and GM treasurer H.C. Grossman was fined $1. So the treasurer who, sort of came up with this plan, H.C. Grossman, which I can't find much information about this guy. I tried Googling him, and I can't find much information, was fined $1. $1. Okay? So if you conspire to do something like, steal a candy bar or something like that, you ain't going to get fined $1. You ain't going to get fined $1 in this country. You're going to go to jail, right? You're going to go to jail. You're going to be guilty of stealing it and not stealing it, right? Now in this country, the way our system goes, so you'll be fined $1 if you're GM or treasurer on GM, but for doing this, for ripping up and destroying America's transportation system. This is what they did. All right, so every time you see a GM car, spit on it. Don't spit on it, guys. You'll get in trouble for that, and you won't be fined $1. You'll be fined a lot more. Trust me. Now, I'm not talking from experience or whatnot. I'm just saying this is a reality right now. So yeah, this is what GM left us, so they can sell us garbage motors. This is what happens. All right, so let's go into the audience. I've been keeping you guys for a little bit. So Rennell Reed seems to be up here, so I'm just going left to right. So let's go ahead for Rennell Reed. You are on board. Let me see. Stalking horse. Well, $1 was worth more than... Yeah, but if you're a treasurer at GM, I mean, come on. $1 is still $1. I mean, that's what, getting charged maybe $50 today? What, that's a very nice steak and a beer? Well, it depends on where you go. Maybe if you go to like some fancy Miami condo that's falling down, they'll charge you extra at the.
Renell Reed still isn't on, but we sent him an invite.
All right. Renell Reed, you are on board. Last call for boarding until we bring on. I guess David Mitchell will be next. You're more on board on the soundboard than I am, man. All right. Can we cancel? I guess Renell Reed's hand raise and then he stopped. Okay. All right. So David Mitchell,
right.
You're on board. Come on in.
All right. Hello, David Mitchell.
You're
a
on
regular
board,
on the audience.
Yeah. Should have like a badge for that or something. All right, David. You're on board.
Just let you know, my internet might go in and out. So I'm having internet issues right now.
Okay. Well, right now we hear you loud and clear, so you're good.
All right. Oh, my wife said hi.
I say hi to her too, so hello.
Oh,
Greetings.
Dimitri. It's something I'm going to bring up when you were talking about rail to trail and how I said in last week's live stream that they were scams.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you send me some info on that, or?
Well, I'm going to be honest. Most of the people who work for the Rail to Trails group, they hate trains, you know?
I don't think they all hate trains or anything like that. If anything, that it's more that they just they love their area and they want to have beautify. So when I talk to this guy, and again I'm not gonna name any names or anything like that. I'm just gonna say he's a local guy and whatnot. And he goes to the same church that I do. So when I was speaking to him, he was saying that in the area that where his wife was, and I think where they made the first sort of rail trail, which was up in I think Minnesota or whatnot, was that a lot of these rail lines were either abandoned or weren't used. So they said, well, okay, instead of that, we could just put a rail trail and that would be fine. And I guess back in those days, like in the 80s and 90s. Or when they first started, this was back in the 60s and 70s. So again, they're the boomer generation, so they've been doing this for a long time. Mm-hmm. So when they first started
if he's talking about a trail in Minnesota, he's probably talking about the 80s.
Yeah, and one of those. I'm kind of guessing over here.
Yeah, because I know that in the case of the Northern Pacific, which I guess at the time was Burlington Northern, I think Ronald Reagan passed a deregulation act that basically eliminated quite a bit of the bureaucracy that was needed to abandon the line. And then Burlington Northern took all of these unprofitable lines that they didn't need anymore, and they just abandoned them on the spot. So that's why there's a bunch of abandoned lines that became abandoned in the 80s because of that one single act that Ronald Reagan signed. I forgot what it was called.
Mm-hmm. And that really screwed up a lot of small towns and places that still need rail,
I disagree. In the case of the trail that runs by my town, it didn't really hurt them that much because the line wasn't really in good condition. It wasn't being used because of the highway, and turning it into a bike trail, I benefited quite a bit of towns that were along the route because it allowed for these bikers that would come by to stop at these local businesses and do stuff, whether it be a lodge or a cafe. And I think it wasn't like a huge net gain for the cities, but I say it helped them more than these abandoned lines that were not being used by Burlington Northern.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Just one quick thing that I want to jump in with. Two things actually. Stalking Horse said it was the Staggers Act highcast, so that was the one that they were making.
Thank you.
Yeah. Two. The other thing about these rail trails is that the thing is that when I got into it, what I said is what he agreed with later on is that look, maybe afterwards there will be an influx or increase in demand for passenger rail. So probably later on, some of these rail trails, since the right of way is still there and they're still being used, at least afterwards, that can then be turned back into trains, for the right of ways for trains. So that could be a possibility. So in some things, it can be used sometimes for good. But yeah, I do think that in this country we do. It's become so much of a meme that we over imply that everything has to be a rail trail this or cultural trail that or bike trail this or bike trail that, and we don't even do bike transportation very well. There's some cities here that do it well.
That's true.
Indianapolis is one of them that they do have a very nice biking trail. But I mean, there was a lot of like the Monon and the old Pensy. And some other rail lines that go up to some other suburbs, and this happens all over the United States. You have rail trails that go in between a major city center and an outlying suburb where there's a lot of growing population, and now you don't. What the only areas that you have a transportation between these two major areas that are very close to each other is just roads. So you don't have any transportation to facilitate for that. So yeah, I do agree that a lot of it is silly.
Yep.
I guess that's true. Not for every rail trail.
Not every,
like,
yeah.
Like the Eisenbahn in Wisconsin, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, there are some areas like I brought it up back in a couple years ago, or about a year ago, where some rail to trails actually killed a town. Like, literally killed it all after that,
Yeah, I mean, there's some
probably
like this one that I have over here. There's this a cyclist pedals along the Canalway Trail in Niskayana, New York, a section of the new 750-mile multi-purpose Empire State Trail. So yeah, you have an area over here that's just basically turned into and it's just a single guy in a bike lane. Really, that's that's the picture which what you see half of these rail trails. But it's that's sort of the thing. It's like can this? That's the thing you have to look at every single time of this. You just have to look at it from a logical basis. Can this be better used as a high density or at least medium or low density passenger rail system? How many people can it take? Or if there's not enough demand for that at all, and that's not going to really make anything back, it might as well just be a trail or something else at this point until later on when there's now an increased demand between point A and point B when this trail or parts of this trail, because this is 750 miles between there. And of course, mountains, brew pubs, what they call the Grand Canyon of the Adirondacks. So yeah, it's okay. Now they're gonna ask me for my email to put all this. No, I'm gonna go ahead and put this on archive. To heck with that. But yeah, that's again, you have to look at it from a logical perspective. Which is going to be better.
I know, because the Ashley Greenway actually a rail to trail here in South Carolina. Like, it goes through an area called West Ashley, South Carolina. It's a rail to trail. It was originally called the Krogan Branch. And how it was set up, if they kept that in, Amtrak could have used that to bypass CXX. They would have been able to bypass the rail yard that they have to go through to get to their train station, like, literally. But instead, it would turn into a trail,
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think a lot of that has to go on Amtrak as well. Speaking of that, I mean, look what they're doing. Let me see, where is that article that I have? There was one that I have over in down in Louisiana where they're trying to reopen up. Down there where CSX is running down there. Maybe I don't have it here. Okay. No, it looks like I don't have it here with me. But yeah, that has, a lot of that has to do with also Amtrak also being vocal about it too and saying, why can't we use this? And, why can't we let this be something that we can use? Because look what they do with the freight rail companies. Every time they know they have priority over them to run their passenger trains, but half the time they stay mum on it. It's not until later on now that Stephen Gardner has stepped up as one of the leaders in Amtrak that's becoming more and more. They're becoming more vocal about it, and they're actually not letting that stream past them. So that has to be something they have to do themselves too.
Oh, do you know, Dimitri? Do you know what I got the nickname for the boomers are? Do you know what the nickname is?
What is it?
The Boom Booms.
Boom booms.
Yep. Come on, because it's got a funny ring to it, you know?
Hey, baby, don't you grab it?
Oh
I'm
man.
the fucking one who gave me the ideal, you know?
Yeah.
That was the one who gave me.
I know. I'm like I was talking to my brother about it. It's like, oh, they're called the boomers because they're the ones that blew up the country. They boomed it. It's like, yeah, they really boomed it, all right. That's what he says. So yeah, and look, you can't blame them all. You have to thank some of them because at least we do have some things, because of it. I mean, a lot of them have been leading. I guess since the 80s and 90s, a lot of these rail passenger advocacy associations. So we do have some things to thank them for, right? But, again, they're a small minority of the larger cohort of the whole generation that, we all love to make fun of. So, we got to be fair of that, right?
Oh, did you hear about the airline getting into hot water again?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a little bit about the airlines. But what is this about this time?
Well, if I'm right, in the next couple of years, like, the pattern will shift to rail instead of air. Like, we're already seeing it with the airlines starting to rise out,
Yeah, it's nowhere near as much as it's going to be, especially with what's going on with the COVID and the pandemic. Everything is kind of up in the air, and it's going to take a while until we start seeing that. So,
like, I guarantee next 10 years, the airlines are probably going to be in trouble. Like, they're going to be ones in trouble,
It could be. We can only hope so, right? It's until we start having more power and until we start, representing. Look, I mean, here's the thing: millennials make the largest cohort of people in the country now. We're the largest population of a generation here in this country, and we still make up a minority of the politicians and people in charge of the country. So that's an issue. There's definitely very much a power imbalance. So. Until we start coming into power, then that's not going to change. But until then, we have to get more active, right? And at least with everybody being online now and doing all these Zoom meetings in our local departments of transportation, it makes it easier for us now to get more involved because a lot of these. A lot of the older cohort can't really get into technology. All right, or they'll go on Zoom and they'll be missing their pants and the camera's pointing down at them. Things like that, right?
Why got the dingling?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, look, that's that's sort of the that's what we're competing with in this country. But that's the thing; they still have power.
Uh-huh.
All right. Anyway, man, it was a pleasure having you on. I thank you for coming on and talking a little bit about this because at least we got some forward in our articles, man. So you moved some things forward. So I thank you for that.
All right.
You're welcome, man.
All right. Take care.
See ya.
Later.
All right. So
okay.
Rennell Reed
I got Rennell Reed invited. So we're just gonna wait for him.
Okay. Yeah. So he'll be next, and then we have our last half of articles, and then we will call it a night. So yeah, we're an hour and 18 minutes. So maybe we can make this finally a sub 2-hour stream, guys. So now you all can get to bed. And I'm not keeping you all up. But I mean, hey, you guys are you're still up with me, so that's a good thing. Let's see what here in the comments over here. Osman Hussein, I want rail trails. Oh, we can hear you, Rennell.
Here he is.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay.
All right, good to see you.
How you doing?
Doing okay. Second time lucky, I had to try again.
Well, welcome aboard. So you're on now.
Want to talk about the Amphitheats.
Well, the outgoing amphitheats, yeah. They got the,
I think they're. I grew up around those things.
yeah, same here.
I think we all did.
I didn't.
You didn't?
No, because I lived by the Empire Builder, which didn't have the amphitheats.
The superliners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I see with the venture, I think maybe I'm going a little far with this, but maybe Amtrak is trying to be Brightline, which I think they could never be it.
Yeah, you got a point there. I mean, you could see in the meeting they were kind of sort of in senpai notice me mode with Brightline. That they kind of didn't want them to be there and kind of were upset that Brightline was kind of stealing the show, but also wanted Brightline to be a part of them. So they're kind of acting like the tsundere waifu over here, to use that term. I don't think I would ever be using that with Amtrak, but it kind of is in terms of Brightline, that they kind of want them to be. They want to be in part of Brightline or do something with that because it will help Amtrak's image. But they also are kind of upset that it's kind of their fault that they've taken so long to really push the envelope of passenger rail technology and progress here in this country, that somebody else is taking their lunch.
That someone else is taking Amtrak's lunch. Right?
Yeah. Well, sort of I would say, because you had a lot of people in Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, that like one of the representatives from Illinois, that he was talking to the the CEO of Amtrak. I don't quite remember the name, but it's there in the meeting. He was going after him and saying, why can't we have what's going on with all the delays happening between
It was on the Alini and Saluki routes, so he was like an Illinois politician.
Yeah. But
he was he was upset of Amtrak up there, and then like the next line after that, he went ahead and asked Mike Reininger from Brightline and saying, "Hey, when can you get something up here?"
Demetrius, did you see the Amtrak Midwest coaches?
Yes, I have. That's the same ones.
Yeah. I think I asked you this, but I think Amtrak Midwest could be spun off into its own private company.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying. I know we talked about this several times. Very much to how the Japanese went ahead and split off JNR.
Japan.
Yeah, how they split it off into 7 different private companies. Very much could be done the same here in the United States. However, the problem is that we don't have either homogenous or very... and that's the thing. The Japanese system, the way Japanese politics work, is a completely different culture. Here in the United States, to have that sort of organization and homogeneity around the whole entire country is very hard to do, if not impossible. Mm-hmm. Probably impossible. Okay, it's a lot more probable that it's impossible. But the thing is that it can be, it springs up here in this country, right? Like we've seen with Brightline, we've seen with TCR. Now what could definitely happen is that either Brightline, TCR, or maybe several other passenger rail companies that spring up, I don't know, maybe some other freight rail companies will do the same thing like FEC has done. So there could definitely be some sort of spin-offs. And this has happened even in recent history where you've had some private companies, like one that happened here in Indiana where they were running the Hoosier as a private company under
Iowa Pacific.
Yeah, Iowa Pacific, which was running the Hoosier line for about a year or so.
They lost it.
Yeah, and that was, again, due to the government contract and due to pricing, etc. But at the time, they were actually doing better than Amtrak, and a lot of people thought that was better than Amtrak because they had Wi-Fi, they were running on a better schedule, they were on time more often. And they even contracted Amtrak crew members to also work the train. So there's definitely a betterment organization in our private companies that can definitely be substantial and help out here. But in terms... Go ahead.
You think Brightline is better than Amtrak in comparison?
And the thing is, we're comparing like an apple seedling, or an apple more like not a seedling.
Apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, Amtrak serves the small towns. Brightline
Yes.
serves the big cities.
Yeah, we're comparing something completely different over here. I mean, Brightline's
Like
just
apples
started.
to oranges.
Yeah.
I would say
Brightline
apples to
runs
oranges.
their
I would
service for
yeah.
profit.
I would say like a juvenile
Amtrak
tree.
operates their service because the government wants them to.
Yeah. I would say a juvenile tree, and comparing it to like an old orchard, which some of the trees are kind of rotten. Some of the trees do come out pretty well. That's sort of Amtrak. Brightline has just started, right? It's just the tree that's just planted there, and you already see some of the fruit there, but it hasn't started up yet. Until we see what happens with Orlando, we're not going to see the true extent. We haven't seen Brightline's final form yet, right? that's
Right.
what we need
It's a
to.
little scary to think about.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet.
Once they get to Orlando, I think it's really going to pick up for them.
Oh yeah, and once Brightline West starts picking up, that's when things really start going. I think once you have Brightline go to Orlando, you will probably see one or two more private companies maybe spring up. And then definitely after Brightline West starts running, you're going to seeing more, right? Because Brightline is, a very much a startup in the
Yes.
passenger rail space. Okay, and you have Amtrak, which is the one that has started in here. It's the same thing. You compare this to like Tesla or Apple, companies that were very much, starting in a space that was very much dominated by a much larger, very laggard company. Like, when Apple started, I mean, what was the biggest competition was IBM, right? And where's IBM now? They basically sold
Dell
off.
and Gateway.
Yeah. I mean, Brightline very much has a chance to change the industry here in the United States, because we have to see high-speed rail here not as a federal project. It has to be seen as a market
Private
space.
project.
More like a market space. Because it's not like what we have in China, like what the Chinese have. I'm not saying what we have in China, because if we were in China, that'd be a whole different story. I don't think we'd be streaming. but what they have in China is very much central government control. So they can go ahead and map this out and do this out through central planning. Japan, in a very different sense, also has the same sort of thing. However, they have it set up in a way that, because the whole country runs on, Japan first. I mean, again, they're a very nationalistic country, which, there's nothing wrong with that. And they can very much do that, Japanese companies only contract out or try to contract out first to other Japanese companies. So that's,
I like the look of their Shinkansens.
oh yeah, and that's something you're only going to see over there, or like they have in Taiwan, or also in Texas, hopefully soon.
Texas.
Yeah. You have somebody here in the comments that agrees with you. PensyFan19 says that Brightline is way better, more than Amtrak. So he agrees with you there. But yeah, I think we're comparing two different things. That's how I'd conclude it.
Getting back to you, I think that Amtrak is trying to be Brightline, and they couldn't. Like, I like what you said. Like, they're stealing their lunch.
Yeah, it's more like they're stealing their thunder, because they haven't taken all their lunch yet. They haven't even taken a crumb of away from Amtrak. But they're really stomping forward. That they're starting to glare all the looks from everybody, right? So that's really where Amtrak is kind of miffed. And if Brightline, once they get ready to Orlando, and Brightline West starts going, hey, maybe you'll see something like Atlanta to Charlotte happen, or maybe somewhere in the Midwest that Brightline starts out in, or another company. And it doesn't have to be Brightline, or Brightline has some sort of minority stake or share in another private company. And that could very well happen.
I kind of won't miss the amphitheats, but I think they'll be around a few years
Yeah,
in my neck of the woods.
until they said, I believe 2030 or something, when they said they're going to get rid of all this. Yeah, by the early 2030s, 2032 or something like that, they want to replace 40% of the fleet. So yeah, the amphitheats will still be around, and by the time they get completely replaced, they'll be 70 years old. Pretty easily, right? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, anything else you want to add in, or?
Yeah. When these ventures get high speeds like 110, 120, I wonder if they will rattle and shake.
No, probably not. They're
like
designed.
The amphitheats.
The thing is that the Ventures are designed in part. Yeah, they're designed in part with the Chargers, so they work in conjunction. And it's like you're adding something to like a car, right? They're all designed with the same aerodynamic coefficient to run with that. So that's not going to be a problem at all. There's not going to be no rattling or shaking. Yeah, the suspension is in tune with the front suspension of the heavier locomotive in front. That's not going to be an issue.
I'll have to ride Brightline.
Yeah, hey, when they open up in November, God willing, this year, you definitely more than welcome to go ahead and go there. Just give it a shot.
Yeah, I will at some point.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thank you for coming on, man.
Yes.
All right. Well, take care. All right. So that's everybody in the audience who's wanted to speak for now. And again, of course, if you guys would like to come on, we'll have one more chance for you to come on board in about 30 minutes or so at the end of this. All right. So we're trying to make it short over here, and hopefully everybody has a chance to speak. Let's look at the comments over here before we move forward to the last half of articles and call it a night. Frotzy Train Films. How will Viewliner coaches be used when these new Venture train sets we're getting on the Palmetto, Silver Star, Meteor services? They haven't said anything about the Viewliners, and those are different fleets or different sets. So the Ventures are more again geared towards the amp fleets, which are single level passenger coaches, right? The Viewliners and all those are bi-level coaches. So maybe Siemens will make something to cover that realm, or probably not, I'm not quite sure. And again, those usually run on slower lines because of the way those trains run. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what will happen to them. They'll probably still be used until something else happens. Pensy fan, I personally prefer the Ventures over the amp fleets based on comfortability or comfort. But the service life of the amp fleets is truly outstanding. Yeah, it just goes to show America used to make things that lasted, right? KK, Spanish here, but the private lines, they build the unified security systems to make a national standard like Japan or European countries. I mean high-speed lines. My question goes about unification of lines. That's definitely a valid point, and that's the thing. Let's say Georgia's running all these Siemens type of trains, and then Texas, let's say the Southeast is running a whole bunch of Siemens trains, right? And they run on different systems. And then they want to connect with Texas, which is using the Shinkansen system, right? Let's just say in a far future, hypothetically, right, you have these Siemens, a mixture of Siemens Chargers and Valeros in the Southeast, and then you have Texas, right, which is running, Shinkansens. How does that get unified, and how can you run, let's say, a system between, two areas in two different points? That definitely goes into, at least the track gauge is still the same, right? They're both run on standard gauges, and it's as long as we have the standard gauge set, right, that will be different. However, where we can see really some problems is going to be the difference in the systems that they use. So definitely, I do see where we go into unifying the systems. That's probably where we'll get to a problem. If we even get to that point where we'll be seeing systems and different high-speed rail systems in the United States and different regions get together. But very much like in Europe, you have a unifying code which enables these countries, even though, France is using different trains and Germany's using different trains. You at least have a system where all the signaling and everything has to be unified to an EU standard. So could we see some sort of US standard if the FRA was thinking that far ahead? Very likely. They finally have gotten past the point and seeing that, Shinkansens are not supposed to crash into each other, and they're not looking at crumple zones, and if they can, jump a NASCAR loop or something like that. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up at this point. But, for that, I'm not making stuff up at the whole club. I'm just saying, what the FRA has been doing. At least they've passed that point where they're not looking at, they're looking at crash avoidance. So at least we're going that. What will the new sleeping cars look like? We don't know, Adam, because they haven't come out with new sleeping cars. We're just going to be still using, the Viewliners and the other ones. All right, so let's get into, speaking of luxury and whatnot. This was an interesting article that just came out today. A $350 million palace on rails. Luxury train is in the works. So this is very interesting. Long distance rails. Again, this is stuff that we've seen. Like the Shimishika the Shimishika in Japan, which is a cruise line train or a cruise train. And there's been some cruise trains that have come about, and they're popular. They're very expensive. And some of these things have taken off. It's really is for a different audience, right? A different market. Of course, some of these things are like $12,000 for like a week or something like that. So that's a whole different. That's a whole different price line. But just to look at it, it's just for fun. Various new trains and routes are currently in the pipeline, including Italy's Dolce Vita train, the Sweet Life, set to run 10 routes due to the country's well-known landscapes, and Midnight Trains, an upcoming network of overnight services from Paris to 12 different European destinations. That sounds like it could be a Eurobeat song or something like that, Midnight Train. Look at that. However, French designer Thierry Gauguin plans to take the rail travel experience to a completely new level with his latest concept, a private luxury train made to measure for one lucky and very wealthy owner. Okay, so it looks like he's making it for somebody to own. Gauguin, who has worked with the renowned designer Philippe Starck across countless projects, is known for his impressive yacht designs, including Apple co-founder Steve Jobs' 80-meter vessel Venus. I wonder who owns that now, since the late Steve Jobs. But this is his first attempt at conceptualizing a train. That definitely does kind of look like a first attempt of using like Cinema 4D to make a train. But hey, it doesn't look that bad. A chance to see panoramic views of the journey with transparent windows. Okay, I see what they're doing here. So a 400-meter long train will be made of 14 cars in glass, so technologically advanced that it can switch from opaque to completely transparent parency. Well, it's not so advanced. We have that technology available. But yeah, he made Steve Jobs' vessel, the Venus. So this is what it looks like if you guys are interested in what that looks like. It kind of looks similar to something, right? That kind of looks similar. No, not at all. Definitely, there's a lot less choke points on there, right? That may be a better map. I don't know. Making a Call of Duty reference there. But anyway, so a palace on rails. Look at that. Travel is not about speed, but it's about taking the time, because time is the only treasure we have. Okay, you can put that on a poster board somewhere on a third grade classroom. So there we go. Look at that. Look at how is that the train? That doesn't look like the train. I don't know how that would run. Okay. Yeah, this definitely was. The train will take 2 years to finish building. So this guy's gonna put a garden within the train. I don't know how that's gonna work. You can have a party on the train. This looks like something like an airship or something like that. I don't see how that's a train. I can kind of see that. I don't know how that's gonna work. The concept comes as an overnight long distance rail travel as overnight long distance rail travel resurgence continues. Yeah. Oh, so look at that. You'll have a chaise lounge and a granite bathtub. certainly this guy's going to start to look into weight distribution on the train, and he's going to start running into issues here. Especially, I don't know where he's going to grow a whole cherry blossom within this train. So yeah, it's a concept, but you can see, people are thinking about it. Fun, silly articles like this. This actually looks realistic here. This is definitely what we've seen on some cruise trains, like the Japanese ones. Just a lot of waste of space over here behind that couch. So I don't know. Maybe they'll make that something, or a partition over here where you have a couch on a walkway of some sort. I don't know. Definitely this guy's gonna run into anything if he even makes this train at all. But that's something, silly to look at. I wonder how much a luxury train costs. I don't know how much this one costs. They're definitely they run in the tens of millions.
My guess is 50 million.
50 million? You guess 50 million? I guess something like this is going to be unobtainium dollars.
I'm just trying to think of I'm trying to factor in all the amenities, because I know that a regular freight car is $75,000 a piece, and that's just a regular freight car. So I'm trying to think of adding all the amenities, making it clean and luxurious, and you got to add the cab and the locomotive, and I'm just trying to factor all that in. I think it's a big guess.
I say something like this, maybe definitely 100 mil. That's what I think. 100.
Well,
200.
I can't see it. I'm sorry. So
That's
maybe
all right,
my
man.
guess is way off.
Yeah, no, don't worry. It looks completely ridiculous and undoable. I mean, this guy wants to grow a whole orange blossom area in his car, and there's just one lone yard bench in here, which I don't know. It looks like somebody just got on Cinema 4D and yeah, look at this, luxury train. Even the front looks like
Soy face moment.
I don't know. It looks weird. That looks like the helmet of Griffith from Berserk or something. It looks scary. It looks weird. I don't know. But anyway, all right. This is the article I was talking about over here for the Gulf Coast service. Amtrak gains access to freight rail lines, asks feds to speed up decision on Gulf Coast service. So I was talking about this earlier. So they're asking to have access to CSX and Norfolk Southern freight lines along the Gulf Coast, is once again urging federal officials to expedite a decision that would allow passenger service to resume between Mobile and New Orleans within 6 months. They're once again asking for your support and for your help. So that's what Amtrak is trying to do. So they have been inspecting the line. So they have an inspection train that pulled into, this was in Mobile in 2016. So they've been pushing this for years now of trying to get that back, the service back between Mobile, Alabama, and New Orleans. So in addition, the passenger operator wants to undertake repairs to stations in Bay St. Louis, Gulfport, Biloxi, Pascagoula, and Mobile. All right. So yeah, that's what they're trying to do, bringing back the Gulf Coast line, which again, stopped service after the accident and never started again. Amtrak's sort of been, dragging their feet on it, but they've been really trying to push. But it's really most of the culprit on here is CSX and Norfolk Southern, not wanting them to do it. But they finally got that. So until they can finish up their filings with the STB, then that will happen. And hopefully they want to push the service by New Year's Day. So yeah, that's in 6 months from now. We're halfway through the year, guys. So that could happen. All right. Let's finish up a little bit over here on some of these little bit of conspiracies. So there was one thing over here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Corbett Report, but some of these things are pretty good. Even on here, and this guy's more toward the right. As for those of you who are politically inclined, but even over here in this. And this guy has, he usually does, big documentaries on here. But he basically comes up with the whole entire script and everything, all the information on here. It definitely puts me to shame of of when I do work like this. But he definitely went ahead and talked about the GM conspiracy. Look about over here. So this was, again, when people say conspiracy, the connotation has been so messed up by people saying conspiracy theory. It's not a theory if it's fact. Okay? And this is definitely fact, right? GM and these other companies that came together were convicted of conspiracy, of trying to make a monopoly. They were conspiring to make a monopoly, right? In 1949, GM, Firestone, Standard Oil of California, and their officers and corporate associates were convicted on the second count of conspiracy. That's for real. Okay, the government went ahead and convicted them of conspiracy. The punishment for buying up and dismantling America's public transportation infrastructure, a $5,000 fine. H.C. Grossman, who had been the director of Pacific City Lines when it oversaw the scrapping of LA's $100 million Pacific Electric system, was fined exactly $1. Okay? And then afterwards, unsurprisingly, GM and its associates did not remain in the doghouse for long. In 1953, President Eisenhower appointed Charles Wilson, then the president of General Motors. Again, this has been happening for a long time, this revolving door, as Secretary of Defense. Okay? Remember when they say, guys, remember when they always kept saying in school that, oh, they built the highways, just in case we go to war with the Russians and the Soviets, that we'll have to move all this, all this equipment on. Even though in the last World War I and World War II, all we did was just went ahead and use the freight rail lines and, basically bogged them down to death because the government was just using them and never repairing them. So again, use logic, think that through. It's like, wait, why would the government do that when they're just going to go ahead and use the freight railroad lines again? So again, there you go. Charles Wilson, president of GM, to be Secretary of Defense. Look at that afterwards. Wilson, with Francis DuPont of the Rockefeller-connected DuPont family, as chief administrator of federal highways, oversaw one of the largest public works projects in American history, the creation of the interstate highway system, with a war-era excise tax on train tickets still in place and federally funded highways and airports providing cheaper alternatives. Rail travel declined a startling 84% between 1945 and 1964. Okay? So I will go into more of this. I did a little bit of an article, what happened to America's transportation system, from class to crap. How did we go from, these beautiful Art Deco streamliners to Amfleets, right? To Amfleets and AEM 7s. How did that happen? And this was part of it, right? I didn't go much more into detail about it, about at least this part. I did very much go into detail about how the government went ahead and destroyed the systems on purpose. And again, why was it done on purpose? Because you had Charles Wilson, who was then president of General Motors, becoming the Secretary of Defense. This is reality. So that's when we talk about conspiracy, guys. Okay, this is history. This is what's happened. Okay, and again, you can look up more of this. So I do urge you to take a look at this, the Corbett report, how and why big oil, what's going on.
OBS just crash?
It just said OBS is having a connection issue, just disconnected. I mean, my internet is still fine. And YouTube Studio is saying excellent connection, so I don't know what the heck is going on.
Huh.
That is odd. Okay, wait a second. Oh, I think we're back. Okay. Checking here. Okay, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, view... Okay, open. Oh boy. Oh, it looks like the old companies are attacking me. All right, I think we're back. Stream status is going poor over here. I don't know if you guys can hear me or see me. But we're trying to regain connection. I'm looking
We've got 10 minutes left.
Yeah. I'm looking at the monitoring over here on YouTube, and it looks like we're doing fine. All right. I think we're good. Okay, it looks like it's coming up now. All right, good. All right, let's get back into it, and hopefully nothing happens. Okay, so OBS is showing up green. Upstream is 3,000 kilobits per second, so we're good. Okay. All right, yeah. Now it's stable. Yes, KK, it is stable now. Okay, we're good now. We're live. We are live. Okay, let's do it live. All right, so again, this is an article that looks very alarmist. Miami's climate dystopia gets real. Again, I'm very much for the environment. I'm very green in that. Of course, being born and raised and living in Miami, in South Florida. Of course, I mean, the environment is very important. However, you have some people that, have been, saying that, we're going to be underwater in 2020. And, well, that didn't pan out so well. Or, we're going to go into a climate freeze. And look, and it's not to say that, there's not climate change. Of course there's climate change. But there's climate alarmism. And then there's people who just, don't do anything about it and say, I don't care. I'm going to, rev my burn coal through my big Cummins, Dodge Ram. Yeehaw. Though again, you have two different extremes that are just ridiculous. So we try to be balanced over here and say, look, we want the environment to be better, and we can do it through trains and others, at least our solution, right? So that's the only thing I'm going to say about that. But let's talk about this, okay? So again, 12-story Florida condo building that collapsed, last week, or 2 weeks ago. It had been thrown up quickly during the go-go years of the 1980s, when you had Tony Montana in South Florida, snorting cocaine. When the deregulation of the savings and loan industry sparked a red-hot building boom in Miami. 40 years later, it was showing its age, not just in clunky, vaguely Soviet style, but in the faded, weather-beating look that the old concrete structures get after they have been too long exposed to salty water and wind. Well, I mean, the other ones are still there. So, I mean, it had more to do with the other structural parts of it, and that they weren't completely, they weren't staying up to date. That's what happens when you don't stay up to date. At the time, my eye was drawn to a neighboring building, the 87 Park, a luxurious new 20-story condo designed by star architect Renzo Piano. So 87 Park. So this is the building right here that you guys always see every single time you see this building. The Champlain Towers. That of course now the whole thing is completely demolished. So they got rid of everything, including whatever pets were in there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you heard about that one where they took everybody out of the building and let them take out their pets or half their items or anything like that. They're just give it to us and you have an inventory of it. We'll see if we find it. So here's your smashed up Xbox or whatever, right? But here you go. You have what's this build? 87 Park. Yeah. So they'll make 88 right next to it. That's how quickly things happen here in Florida. Oh, one thing's down. Let's make another one of these. That's just this reality of how things happen. Okay, designed by star architect Renzo Piano. That's a funny name, Renzo Piano, Mr. Piano Man. Sing us a song, Mr. Piano Man. Make us a tower tonight. We're all in the mood for a new condo, and you got us feeling all right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But yeah, this is Miami, folks. And you think it just ends with that. So again, this guy goes on and on about how more of these are happening. A few weeks ago, a 1,000 square foot apartment at 87 Park was going for $2 million. In contrast, a one-bedroom condo at the Champlain Tower South could be had for $550,000. Okay, so $500,000 for a one-bedroom fallen apart condo. Okay, it shouldn't be that much. It's not even worth that. It's not even worth a tenth of that. Well, now it's not. Definitely now. But it goes to show you again when I'm talking about the housing market, especially in a place like Miami. That's why so many people can't afford to live in Miami. It's ridiculous. You can get probably in the mainland, outside of the beach area, you can probably get a one-bedroom closet for maybe $2,000 a month to rent. That's insane. But look at this. And again, the people who lived in the tower, a lot of them have been living for years, so they probably bought it in the 80s or 90s. And they live in there. A lot of people like that in Miami, and I've known several family members and friends who have owned condos in Miami and then they've sold it and bought a house somewhere like north in Broward or in Palm Beach, or try to escape the prison county of Miami-Dade. So they've done that, especially now in the housing market. Forget it now. And these guys didn't even have a chance to sell their stuff out. So people who've been living there, they didn't have enough to go ahead and the total cost for repairing the building was $15 million when they were warned about it before. And depending on the size of the condo, a bill for each resident could run between $80,000 and $200,000. So if you bought this, let's say in 1986 or something like that, right? You bought it you bought your apartment and it was previously owned by like some Colombian or Cuban coke dealer or something like that, and you got it for like $30,000, right? And now 2020 it's worth $500,000. You probably don't have that much, or you're probably owed or retired, which a lot of these people were, or it was owned in the family and then somebody else was living in them. Yeah, you don't have that. Okay, and why is it that I'm talking about this? Okay, because where you live in transit-oriented development has a big issue with it. Okay, and this is not the only building now in South Florida, but now there's another one. North Miami Beach, where I my hometown of North Miami Beach, No Ma Beach, condemns unsafe condo, evacuates 300 residents. Okay, the Crestview Towers, which this is very pretty near and dear to me because my karate dojo, where I used to go to for I would say close to 10 years of my life, was over in this area for a good number of years, and I used to teach there, and was in when we had summer camp and all that stuff and whatnot, and every day after school I'd go there. But it was across from this condominium, and some people that went there lived there.
Countywide crackdown on older buildings.
That's right. A building in North Miami Beach was evacuated.
So
after
this is
it was deemed structurally unsafe.
Yeah, look at this, guys.
Is live with that part
The country is falling apart. The country is falling apart.
Discussed that both sides have to agree that this building is safe before anyone is allowed inside.
So the building has been condemned. They have to go ahead and evacuate everybody. So now they're living somewhere else. So some residents packed stuff in suitcases, garbage bags. Many grabbed pets and plants. By Friday night, about 150 residents who didn't have a place to go were transported to a shelter at the Miami-Dade County Fair and Expo Center. Okay, and you want to talk about a building that's falling apart? That's another one too. That's kind of old. So I don't know. I guess they're living in sort of like a hurricane area, which is that's usually used for hurricane evacuation.
More than 300 residents were quickly evacuated from the Crestview Tower.
Look at this, just grabbing garbage bags.
Deemed this 1972 building structurally and electrically unsafe.
Coming home and I realized all this commotion, and that's when I realized that I have to get out.
I don't know what's going on. The city don't send me any paper and nothing.
I believe that. And that's the thing. The city of North Miami Beach and a lot of others, municipalities there in South Florida, they have a bad time communicating with anybody. And again, that's not due to the different languages that people speak there. They just don't communicate or keep up.
In response to the alarming find, balcony slab showed poor surface conditions, cracks in the concrete, and signs of moisture on the balcony slabs. So in response to the alarming findings.
Yeah, and that's on 164th Street. I know exactly what it is. Trust me, I grew up all in that area. So, yeah, this is, paradise falling apart, right? This is the thing. Look at that. Look at that. The whole balcony there. I mean, if you step on here, several times, look at that. You have you literally see the steel rebar there out of the concrete. It's completely fallen to bits. I don't know. Maybe the rent is too damn high. Party should campaign in Miami. Yeah, the rent is too damn high in Miami. That's due for a whole lot of reasons. We found a place more expensive than New York or L.A. No, Miami is one of the top, usually on top on par there with L.A., Miami, New York, San Francisco. It's definitely one of the worst to live in. One to live and one to own anything there. What's going on with California high-speed rail? Excuse me. What's going on with California high-speed rail? Nothing much yet has come out, Adam. So this week has been a slow week for California high-speed rail, which on this channel we call a good week. Great performance. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was the. That's some good playing in tune. Yeah, I could probably do some more on my harmonica. That was a joke that I was planning for there. But yeah, that's sort of the reality. So this is Miami, and this is what they're doing over in China. Here you go, autonomous buses. So I don't know if you guys can see that. This video was posted on a forum that I frequent. Look at that. They have autonomous buses, and of course that's been happening here in the United States too. But they've been really pushing it in China. Now again, is it something that we should bring here in the United States? Could it work over here? Absolutely, in certain places. Is it going to replace rail? No. And obviously the Chinese know that, right? So the Chinese have not just done autonomous buses. Of course, they've done their high-speed rail system. They're even working on maglev monorails. They have some of the most extensive subway and transit systems in the world. They've been working on a lot. And again, China is on a completely different scale and level playing field of what they're doing. I mean, look at that. They got like a hammer and sickle on the freaking lawn. Oh, man. Look at this. Yeah, that's the thing. Again, it's not at all. It's like, again, we don't want the country at all to be communist. Not at all. But the way that China is doing things is really showing the world that what the Chinese are doing is that they're not playing around now anymore. They were kind of sick and tired of their century of humiliation, and now they're back they're back, and they're showing people what they're capable of doing. So the U.S. has, again, if we really want to say that Pax Americana still stands and that we're still a country, think about it this way morally, guys. What was the Statue of Liberty given to us by France? Okay, it was given to us originally as America as the city on a hill to be to be this not a moral beacon, but to be an example that everybody else in the world can uphold to, right? In terms of, I guess, democratic or Republican values, right? As a way that this is what a country can be. That you can come here and you can make it. And again, a lot of that is not to say a lie, but a lot of that is embellished in certain viewpoints. But definitely America has done a lot of good in this world in terms of technology, in terms of civilization, right? But we have sort of rested on our laurels and fallen behind. We're asked the rest of the world. I mean, look at China's roads. Even the roads are better than the U.S. in a lot of places. Of course, it doesn't mean to say that we want Chinese-built roads. And of course, you've seen a lot of videos. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with some of these China disaster, videos or WebMs or Live Leak when it was still, when it was still up. I mean, there was a joke that if you're a Chinese steel worker and you don't see a Live Leak, logo on the top right, you had a good day. But this is, again, even with all the faults, China's look at what they're doing here. Okay, autonomous buses. Okay, while we have companies, that still to this day are taking advantage of us and sinking us. So how can we work in a country where our own largest companies are taking advantage of us and destroying what we have? Okay, that's something that we have to contend with. Okay, because if we want to be in this country and want to say of the people, by the people, for the people, all that stuff. Yeah, and again. I'm trying to be less cynical than I usually am outside of this stream, because people think that I am very cynical. And yeah, if you look outside, just outside your front view mirror and your window, not to say mirror, because if you look outside your mirror and you're cynical, you got an issue. But if you look outside your window, and you see what's wrong with this country. I mean, I just see, broken roads, people walking on, not even on sidewalks. They're walking on dirt roads in some places, or just on the road, everywhere, right? It's not just, South Florida or Indiana or the Midwest or just California, New York. It's the whole country, right? This is the thing that we have to contend with. If we still want to be that shining city on a hill, if we're still that shining city on a hill, we can still be that, guys. Okay, it's now the torch is now given to us in order to do that. So it's definitely something we can do. We can do it. KK, it's an effing pod. Yeah, it kind of is. It does look like a little pod, right? They do have autonomous buses that they actually do run, but there's just like another thing. It was just funny. It just came up to me. Look at that. It's basically, it is like a little pod. It's silly, but I mean, look at that. I guess we have to wait a few days. I'm not quite sure what that in reference to. They're good buildings, but poorly kept up. Yeah, there are some buildings like that in South Florida where they were. The thing is, a lot of them were built. Were built up super quickly. I mean, in this article, this Rolling Stone article, this guy mentioned Carl Fisher, who built, of course, Fisher Island. If you're familiar with Fisher Island, Florida, it's probably one of the richest zip codes. It is one of the richest zip codes in the United States. I mean, you can only get there by boat. And the boats that come out, like it's a ferry boat, and the ferry boats that come out are, ferrying Ferraris and Rolls Royces and stuff like that. It's a whole private island of basically the riches of, the creme de la creme. But look at that. 1916, the Fisher's Company sold $40,000 worth of real estate. 9 years later, in 1925, the company sold nearly $24 million, right? So Miami has always been, the whole DNA of Miami was and always has been about making a quick buck in real estate, right? Miami's always been a big market in real estate, and we have, big booms and busts like the bust in 2008. You could go down to downtown Miami where they made all these new glass condominiums, and literally 95% of them were unoccupied or were owned by either somebody, from Russia or from China or from South America or from Europe. Okay? None of them were owned by any Americans or anybody that lived in Miami. So a lot of these are, and back then they were making them for, people from the north, right? And I always make this joke. Carl Fisher was a guy from Indiana, funny enough. Henry Flagler was from Ohio, so I always joke and I always tick off, Floridians or people who think they're Floridians because they're not. They're probably from New York or from somewhere else because they're never from Miami. I always joke with them that, Florida was built by Midwesterners. And they always get ticked off with that. But it's true. Carl Fisher, Henry Flagler, Julia Tuttle, they were all from the Midwest. All of them. And it's like that those Midwest, that Midwest grit that originally made South Florida. I mean, you would not have Florida without Henry Flagler's system going down there. Of course, he got sick of the winters and went down to St. Augustine and, went down from St. Augustine down. But that's how people made it. They just got ticked off and said, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and build a railroad because you're not giving my building material that I need to the St. Augustine hotels that I have. Right? And that's how it starts. And then Henry Flagler just kept developing and developing. So that's the sort of thing. And I think I don't know if I showed you guys some of the pictures when I went to visit, Florida last month. But, I went to the Breakers Hotel that Flagler, the Flagler family made afterwards because he had an original hotel. Then it burnt down. 2 or 3 times. But yeah, this is the thing we have to contend with, guys. If we really want to make, America, and we really want to, make these, more of a reality and have this available, we need to step up, because the rest of the world is, there are some people or some countries in this world that can't wait for us to get off our throne because they will vie for power. All right, and that's where we're gonna end it, guys. So we'll go ahead and see who in the audience wants to come in. We'll try to see if we can have somebody not a repeat. That'll be good if anybody wants to come on. And then we'll have anybody else who wants to come on, and that'll be it. Okay.
All right, I invited Yeti, and he's on right now.
All right.
Greetings.
Yeti, you're on board. Welcome.
Hi. Oh, sorry, something as well. I just wanted to hop in and say that, you know, how do I say it? A lot of the TODs that I've seen, have been, pretty quality built. So I don't think something like that is gonna happen. Granted, I'm from New York City, so I might be biased in this matter, but whatever. But even on Metro North, there's a lot of TRD going up, especially around Harrison and Stamford.
Yeah,
but I think an important point about our infrastructure is that there was a significant decline in the quality, not just the quality, but like of how we built things, in the 70s and 80s. In the city here, and in the 70s there was a huge economic downturn, and the Bronx was being burned down every night by the mob and stuff like that. So I think the quality of what happens and what's built, whether it be buildings, roads, railroads, whatever, it happens with time, and it's gradual. Some things might not ever be built again, like the Lackawanna cutoff or the Florida East Coast, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said before in a couple streams again, you had the overseas railroad. I mean, that was called the eighth modern wonder of the world. Things like that. I mean, we don't even make that anymore. And then you have China building 40-mile bridges and things like that for high speed rail. We don't make that anymore. We can. We used to. We just don't. And it definitely, I will say this, building codes have gotten a heck of a lot better. In places like New York, they are very stringent, to the point that, everybody's kind of making the same, tried, tested, and true, steel and glass, behemoths, because those do stand up pretty well. But, really what we need to start doing is like coming together and planning out how this is all going to integrate later on, because like you said with TODs, the thing is that when a lot of these companies do make TODs, they go ahead and make these over big promises and say, yeah, we're gonna have all this shopping and all these condominiums and all this over here, and then when they go ahead and sell the condos, they're ridiculously expensive. And again, that's more due to the housing market, but it goes back into, again, it's like how much of that is a symptom of the already existing environment, and how much of that is brought upon by the developers. Sort of chicken and egg.
I think it also goes by case. This is the last thing I'll say. I think it also goes by like a case by case basis. Like, where I'm in my section of the city, there were housing prices were going down even before the pandemic, because there was just a lot of people living there, and it was some other related things, like, there was a lot of parks being cleaned up and that kind of thing. So, again, it's case by case. You have different cities, building new developments where previously there was nothing, or like a burned down warehouse or something. Like in St. Louis, like they just built a bunch of new corporate centers, and they connected it to the light rail system there. So I think it really depends on where you look at on the country, and then if you go from there, you see the pattern in the city, and you see what has affected it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I've seen this in different cities. And I went to Cincinnati recently, for a trip, and they have their the Cincinnati Bell streetcar over there. And even during COVID, I mean, there was people, there was still like it was right at the end of it, so it was like 2 months ago or so. I believe it was in April, and everybody was out, either getting drinks or going to parties or whatnot, or going out and enjoying the nightlife. And the streetcar facilitates a lot of that. People hop from bar to bar or hop from place to place, and are enjoying the city. And in some older cities like that, you have that available, especially a place like New York, which is the one of the oldest cities here in America. At least it's the seat of American urbanization. You have that. You very much have that, and especially with the subway, that makes it easier now. With the subway, with all the problems it's plagued with, that's something. And the metro systems outlying, of course, like the Long Island and the New Jersey Transit. Once that all comes together, and you have a seamless system where it makes it easy to get from point A to point B without much fuss, then you also have an optimization of going into the other parts. It's like, okay, you have that system, which is the backbone, the steel, right? The backbone of that. Now all the other parts about it's like building a body or building a car. Now you have to put, everything else around it. Like your TOD in terms of transportation. That also comes out with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You have any other questions or anything else?
No, I just wanted to pop in and say hi.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. All right. And thank you for coming on board.
Thanks for coming, Yeti.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
All right. So we'll have, I guess, El Rapido.
Yep.
El
I
Rapido.
invited him.
Hello again.
Hey there.
Hello.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, you guys were talking about the whole comparing nations, infrastructure, and stuff like that. A couple weeks ago, I went to Mexico, all right, and surprisingly, the roads there are not as bad as they seem. Like,
what part of
they're
Mexico
kind
did you
of on par
go
with
to?
the United States. I was in like the rural areas in Mexico, like in the mountainous areas. And,
So Sonora.
No, I went to the state of Michoacan, that place.
Michoacan.
Yeah, I'm not at all familiar
Michoacan.
with Mexico, so.
I don't know where that is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's in like south central Mexico. I didn't go anywhere like any beach resorts or something like that. It's like more like I don't know how you say it, like the rural. It's kind of like rural Mexico. Like it's mostly hilly terrain there. So nothing suitable for trains.
It's West Mexico City.
Okay.
Yeah, it's west. Yeah, it's basically west of Mexico City, and like. So I noticed that a lot of there's actually a decent amount of public transit. Well, not a public transit, but just like transit in general was like you don't really need a car to go around. It's mostly through buses, and like that's where I see how buses can actually work. It's like they usually work where trains can't work. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's a much bigger thing in Latin America. Definitely the buses. I mean, in places like Brazil, they integrate that with some of the other systems that they have in some areas. I mean, even you have like places like Peru where they're using cable gondolas because of where they are in the altitudes in some of these cities. Like I think in Lima, they have that.
I thought that was Medellin, Colombia, where they had all the gondolas.
It could be too. That's also part of the Andes region. I know Peru had one too. But yeah, I mean, it's different systems. Could definitely work, and definitely Latin America has much more of a bus culture. And it's
yeah, that is true, especially because No, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh no, because like. Especially compared to the rail system, because like as far as I know, I don't think there's any passenger service in Mexico. At least not to the point where like it's like a national corporation like Amtrak. I remember I passed by I think it was like a railroad track where like it was like a train station there that's like not even used, and like the tracks did not seem very well kept there, and that's thinking like, okay, this is not. I mean, it's kind of. I think, if anything, Mexico's got like worse rail infrastructure than America, but again, they're much more mountainous than here, so like they don't have much of the geography to sustain it.
Yeah, and I can see that. Like some place like Mexico City, I mean, they have the metro system, and I hear a lot of mixed results about that. But of course, yeah, that place is about a mile high or so, and it's super dense and populated. It's one of the most populated cities in the world.
Well, Mexico City is the most populated city above 2,000 meters.
Yeah.
Or is it feet?
I think it's
I
meters.
think it's meters. Yeah, they use meters and kilometers over there. They're on the metric system.
All right.
I mean, we're the only we're the only one on it. I mean, in like 2 other countries that don't really matter. I mean, sorry to anybody who's in the 2 other countries, but yeah, I mean, we use metric here too for a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, hey,
I think
a pint. No, that's
I
Imperial.
think the only
Never mind.
countries that do not use the metric system are the United States, Liberia, and Myanmar.
Yeah, Myanmar, Burma, yeah. That was the only two other countries. Yeah, Liberia, because we basically gave them, our constitution and imperial system. We said like, yeah, good luck, and well, they haven't had good luck. And Myanmar, I'm not quite sure why they did that. But yeah, I mean, like when it comes to places like Mexico, and I think some of those lines they're using like the rubber tire trains. I don't know, maybe that's a cost thing or something. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like a people mover, but underground.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. But, it does go to show,
I don't know. I've never actually ridden on the...
That's alright. Yeah, that goes to show...
No, I've actually never ridden on the Mexico metro system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does go to show that, what you're saying with, I guess you're saying with Mexico's roads and their bus transit system, they're doing something better in that than the U.S. But in some other things, maybe not so much. So I mean, it goes to show that we do have some catching up, and we're not so bad as we think we are. So it's a balance to that.
Yeah, and I mean, the only reason why they have the whole metro system in Mexico City and why it's so huge is it was literally built on a lake, which coincidentally is kind of resulting in Mexico sinking. So it's not entirely a good thing.
Oh, yeah, kind of like Venice, but I mean, Venice is an older city, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
How old was Tenochtitlan again? Because that was the Aztec cap. It was the Aztec capital that predates Mexico City.
Tenochtitlan, you're right? Yeah, or something like that.
I think it's either Tenochtitlan or Tenochtitlan.
Somewhere around those two.
Because I know Tenochtitlan had floating gardens and they were doing something with the water, like a moat around the city.
Kind of like what's it called? Aqueduct system?
No, it was like a physical moat in the ground. I don't know. It would have been cool if they did aqueducts, but I don't know if they did them.
Yeah, I don't think they got to that point where they're making aqueducts.
I'm not too good on Mexican history in terms of pre-colonial times, so.
Nah, that's all right, man. You have any other questions or anything anything you want to bring up?
I don't really think so.
All right. Well,
There's
thank
really
you.
Not much to say besides that.
Not to worry. Well, thank you for coming on board.
Yeah.
Thanks
for coming.
It's been a good time. Thanks.
All righty.
Okay, next one, Apollo 5.
Okay, Apollo 5, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, Apollo 5, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Oh, since I live over in Florida.
Oh, cool. What part?
Central.
All right, nice. Yeah, it's a little bit less crazy than South Florida.
Yeah. And how bring up kind of comparing countries once again.
Sure.
Of where China only has one, we have two and a Gulf. So you have way more land to cover.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you too well there. You were breaking up there.
Sorry.
Could you just repeat the last statement, please?
Kind of comparing countries with China and America, where China only has one coast to the ocean, where America has two and a Gulf, where you have way more. It's way more spread out compared to major cities.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and definitely we have brought up in the club that we've said that it's a lot harder to go ahead and do a national rail system like China has, because where we have cities, built in this country, it's very much more, east of the Mississippi, where much of the development of the United States has happened. And of course, you can say a lot of that has happened in China, where they have much of the development on the eastern portion of the country. But of course, they do have, larger cities closer together. And by larger cities, we're talking about cities with, tens of millions of people. So that's something that the United States only has in, one or two cities, like, New York and Los Angeles. And that's not even as dense as, something like Shenzhen or Guangdong or Shanghai or Beijing. So that's definitely something different.
Yeah. And also, kind of down here in Florida, with CSX doing more, abandoning small regional companies and going for the intermodal, the phosphorus, and also some other major shipping. I'm trying to start up my own railroad and try to be only a Class 1 in Florida.
Okay. Like, are you being serious with that? Are you gonna try that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, ready.
How are you gonna be a Class 1 in Florida?
Service lots of it, basically small little industries that have been abandoned by all the railroads.
And that's going to get you up to a Class 1 status, like 100. What is it, like 400 million to be a Class 1 in revenue daily?
You're talking annually? About BNSF levels, Iowa, because CP
not even
levels.
The FEC is a Class 1 anymore.
Yeah,
so.
FEC is a class 2. Yeah, Class 2, and that only services Florida.
Yeah, and how basically I already have the route set up of the first trackage that I'm buying would be Lakeland to Polk Parkway, then basically extending that to Bartow and Bowling Green.
All right.
Then abandoned tracks from Lakeland to Tampa.
I get and I see what you're saying, man. And the thing is, you got to understand that, talking about and planning and doing a railroad is a whole lot different than actually going ahead and putting down the millions of dollars or getting a massive business loan and partners in order to go ahead and build it down. There's a lot more that goes into that than just saying, I'm going to go ahead and build a railroad and here's the plan. It goes a lot more than that. I'm not trying to, rain on your parade or anything like that, but I mean, I hope what you're understanding what I'm saying is that you can't just go ahead and say, I'm going to build this.
Yeah, I've been looking into the cost of it.
Yeah, you're talking about, millions of dollars, man.
And also, another thing that I'm trying to do, since a lot of the infrastructure stuff is dealt with politics over or railroad management from the politics side for Amtrak, where they're diverting the money from Amtrak into other stuff that, frankly, we need more into the transportation, is trying to get kind of a law or area law around the tracks of going lessen the amount of semis, basically increasing the taxes for semis and lowering the taxes for rail service.
All right, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck with that then.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on board.
Thank you.
Okay. Pensy Railfan is next.
All right, Pensy Fan, you are on board. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, everyone. Just to make sure, is this mic working?
Yes,
yep.
It's loud and clear.
All right. I'm glad I was able to make it. I'm currently working on part 3 of the American Railroad Iceberg. So that's a little bit of a collaboration with another rail fan who just so happened to be making the same videos. So rather than have duplicate videos, might as well work on it together.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead and collab. That's great, man.
All right. So I said this in the chat. I'm not sure if you noticed, but earlier today I saw in the news a Canadian construction firm has agreed to construct the Prairie Link,
Yeah.
is a proposed privately funded
Actually,
rail line.
yeah. What's funny is
I
that
was talking about it before the stream.
Yeah, that's actually one of the articles I forgot to bring up because Highcast sent it to me and I had it on here, and then we were talking about it, and somehow I forgot to bring it on to here. But glad you brought it up because there was a whole article that we got over here that Highcast sent to me from the Calgary Herald. Province on board with building high-speed Calgary to Edmonton rail link. Definitely Highcast is a lot more knowledgeable in this because he's actually trying to make a sort of proposal for it, or at least a right-of-way proposal. So he's a lot more knowledgeable about this than I would be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is definitely something, again, because it's not just the United States here in North America, but it's also Canada that has very much the same sort of issues when it comes to building high-speed rail. And again, they have a cluster of cities, in their the southern region or in places like Alberta, which very similar to what Highcast was saying, very similar to sort of Texas in terms of its politics, in terms of sort of the land and space and everything across it. That you can be able to build something like this and connect with the rest of the country. Now, of course, the areas in Canada, again, it's very different than the United States in terms of where the cities are. They're all mostly centered or clustered down in the southern portion of Canada. But there's definitely an area that can be done.
All right, I just wanted to bring it up. Sorry, you can continue.
No, go ahead.
All right, I just wanted to bring it up since I'm not sure if I saw it mentioned in the stream, and two, it's essentially Canada's first Brightline, so to speak. So I'm all for it.
Is it though? Because it said we don't know much details from it, but from what I was able to gather, the people behind the Prairie Link are in the very early planning stages. So they're talking about stuff like hydrogen trains and going 350 kilometers an hour.
And there's also Hyperloop and Transpods that are also being looked at there. So they're very early, where they're just in the proposal stage.
Plus, I don't think a Brightline-like service is going to work between Calgary and Edmonton because, one, CP owns the trackage on the Red Deer and Leduc subdivisions, and CP, knowing their treatment of the Calgary to Banff proposal, probably isn't going to even 150 kilometer an hour trains on their line, especially when the max speed of the Red Deer subdivision is only 45 miles per hour and the Leduc subdivision is only 55. So if you're trying to get these 110, 125 or 200 mile an hour trains on these tracks, good luck.
Yeah, that's not going to happen with CP.
Yeah, and that's completely ignoring the fact that it runs through an Indian reservation, and it also runs through all these small towns that probably will not be serviced and will probably absolutely hate these kinds of trains running through the downtowns of their communities.
Yeah, Canada very much has a NIMBY culture too, especially in Alberta.
I know. It's easy to believe Reese when he says that a Brightline-like service would make more sense for Alberta, but in reality, it doesn't. He just hasn't done enough research for this kind of stuff.
In that case, are there any alternative right-of-ways that are being developed that don't interfere with most of these tribes?
Yes, I've actually been. I'm not going to talk about it here because we'd be here all night. But yes, I have come up with an alternative alignment that avoids the Indian reservation as well as many of the small towns that CP goes through. This will reduce the amount of opposition to the project, and hopefully, I can't promise there won't be any legal troubles. There most likely will be, but I think the opposition will be far less severe.
I just wanted to mention that for a second, but thank you for letting me on the stream. It was great to.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem, man.
All right, see you later.
See ya.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
David was already on.
Yeah.
So,
it's 10:30 now, so I actually wanted to end the stream at 10:30, but it's 10:35 now. I think what we can do is look at some comments, and then we'll try for next week. We'll do, I guess, more callers in, because I know we only had them for 2 times on this time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah. I apologize for that, guys, because we were going to have a shorter stream. Unfortunately, OBS went ahead and messed up in there. But I appreciate everybody who came in the audience and still waiting in the audience, because we will go ahead and have you guys next week, and you guys will be able to come on, so not to worry. But we thank you for coming on board. Let's just check the comments one last time, and then we will call it a night, guys. Mexico's passengers went away in the 90s, I believe. Not sure, but something went down with that. Freight trains do thrive in Mexico. Yeah, they do. And mostly because of the oil over there, like Ferromex and whatnot. And concrete, a lot of concrete out of Mexico. What difference does it make electrifying diesel corridors? It's a lot of initial funding in order to get that done. Montreal's metro has subway cars that run on tires instead of steel wheels. It's quieter. Granted, I hear they don't have AC on their trains still. Technically, yes, it is quieter. However, it's a lot more to maintain with rubber wheels. That's the problem with rubber wheels, and they don't go as fast. That's just the issue with that. Let me see. All right, well, I think that's it, guys. We thank you all for coming on board for this other stream of the ARC stream. So thank you guys so much for coming on board. Make sure to like this video so it helps us out with the algorithm, and make sure that you are subscribed and you ring that bell. Thank you all for coming on board, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you all next time. Take care and have a good night.
Bye.